for Custom Office. Today we're going to be speaking to Ms. Wendy Gorski, a consultant out of our Portland office here at ISM. And Wendy's going to show us all about the amazing things that you can do with Custom Office and your Sage 100 software. Wendy, thanks.
Thank you, Sherry. Hi, Amber. Looks like
Hi,
you
Wendy.
Hi. You get got a beautiful day going on in Portland, and you get a one-on-one training here. So lucky you.
Yay!
So what we have, I just want to walk through some of the broader things that people are not aware of, and then we're going to jump into Custom Office. I've got a lot of ground to cover and a short time to get there. But some things that people are not aware of is in both accounts receivable master records and also our vendor master records. We have this little functionality down here. In fact, I am going to change my screen settings here real quick. Pardon me for doing this. I should have done this before. There we go. Okay. So what we have is these stored templates in this Office Merge functionality here. And you can write letters and store them in this particular area, and they can be credit limit documents, thank you letters, all kinds of things. So if I open one up into Word, you can see that you can drop your logo in and everything, but you see this mail merge thing that happens. So for people who have letters that they send out pretty consistently, and you want to be able to just go right into that master file record and have it drop the information in that you want that is being stored in that master record, like at your customer level, all of this information can be modified, rewritten, changed, saved to then go ahead and generate letters right out of the Sage system and not kind of have an external thing where you got the screen up and you got to type all that information in. But just a little something that we find that very few people are aware of. So, so both at the AR level and then at the vendor level, you have different forms as well that are helpful, and we'll bring some of those up here. So, complaint. Quote, you can even, I've seen request for quotes in here. So RFQ letters, things like that. Request for a return. So I'm going to return some product back to my vendor, and I want to generate it right out of the vendor file itself and have it go ahead and mail merge. So that's something to just be aware of. Now the next thing, any questions about mail merging and the template letters?
I assume we would create the template in Word, for example, and save it and then link it up to that? Where is that?
Yeah, it's actually saved. So let me open one up and then we can see. For me, it's saved back out into the MAS 90 directory itself. So if I go save as, let's see. It's not going to pop me right out there. Let's try edit data. No. Oh, where is it? I know it's in the MAS 90 directory, and I think I want to say it's like under templates or something, but I can get you that full path. And then once you save it out there, then you add it here. So I can, like, if I want to add a particular template, so I can say add, and I would name it, so, and then you can scroll out to where you save them. So in this case, here's the file path, so MAS 90 Office Templates.
Okay.
Okay. So you can, if you've got letters already, you can just drag and drop right in here and then add them.
I can absolutely think of some customer letters that, at least the letter when we open a new account. So how do we get the fields into the letter? When we do add template, does it have us line up the fields?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, it does.
Okay.
So it will have you, and then you have a little drop down and says go ahead and add your fields in it. So I might say, you know, inventory letter, and then I saw one out here. And you can just take what they have too and modify it if you want to.
Okay.
So now I've got it, and now I'm going to edit it. And this is where you start dragging and dropping all of your different stuff in here.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to mess around with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now the next thing to talk about is, and you might already know this, Amber, but anywhere where you see a magnifying glass, you go into your full list of things that are available. In the lower left-hand corner is a custom button. And if I want to create a custom lookup, yeah, this is really powerful, huh? So
we're very familiar with the custom lookup.
Yeah. So I know
all the time.
Sometimes, yeah, I might want to create a W9 thing, or I might want to, and I can or may or may not want to make it a default for my screen. So I'm going to come out here, and then I'm going to add what it is that I want. I'm going to take away the things that I don't want, and this build the list that you want to see, and then we'll go from there, and then say next, and then usually I don't do anything there, and then I might say, this is my W9 lookup. And instead of it defaulting by vendor number, I might want to default it by 9 or whatever, and then contains. I always like contains rather than begins with. So, and then finish, and then if I want that one, I just grab it. So I also do that in the general ledger. It's the first thing I always do. In the general ledger, because I don't know often my chart of accounts, and I do this often for clients when I'm working with them on their chart of accounts restructuring, I will create a custom lookup here. This is a real good one for if you, depending on what report writer you're using, and then the newer report writers, they're starting to get better at this, but FRX used to be able to tell you if you were missing an account. So then BizNet and SMI do not. I know SMI's new version to be released in 2015. I believe they're trying to come up with a new way to be able to say, hey, we noticed that you created some new accounts and they're not on your report. But in this case, I always create an account creation, and I come in here and we've got the account number and my description and my status I also want, but I want date created right there. That way when my reports do not line up with MAS, if I go and I run a MAS balance sheet or a profit and loss, and my net income is not lining up with my external report writer's net income, I go chasing an account that may have been created that is not in my report.
Okay.
And then I might say, I like description contains. Now, if I grab this, I can sort it by this column header just by clicking it. And when I sort it, it's then going to show me the accounts created by date, and I can see, oh, I created an account recently. I bet that one's not in my report. And then you can go and insert into your report. So that's a really helpful thing to do.
Okay.
Okay, so the next thing to talk about is tab entry, and this is going to start getting into our custom office functionality. So often when people are doing data entry, they, based upon maybe a form or whatever that they're particularly using, let's see if I got one in here. No, I'll just bring one up. They want things to move through these fields in a certain way, right? Enter,
right.
Enter. And if there's certain things that it's hitting, you're like, well, I need it to go there first rather than there. We can create tab definitions. So let's just talk about the custom office aspect before I walk into this. One of the things, as within all of MAS, you need to first make sure that your role maintenance gives you the ability to change your custom office. So here you can see I've got some custom office things here, and I created a UDT I'm going to show you later here. But when you create custom lookups or tables and things like that, then it will pop them in here, and you may or may not have access to it. You have to grant yourself access. But
Okay.
any custom office task, make sure that you have the ability to create your panels. Like here, you would have to be able to put your panels together. Here allows you to create a UDF or a table. And if those are not checked, you do not have access.
Okay.
So once we know that we have set our access and we have security to be able to open Customizer and use it, it's a simple right-click, choose Customizer, and then you can choose it by user, or you can say all users, and you can choose it by your company. So if you have several companies and maybe one company is a certain type of company that you don't need certain fields and you don't want to see them, we often see this with a for-profit company that has a foundation nonprofit as well. We might set up different user-defined fields for the foundation that we don't necessarily need to see in the for-profit company. And so you'll only want to set it up for the one that you want to see it in. Or if it's something that's unified across all companies, you can say set this up for all companies. I'm going to set it up strictly for my user login for the ABC company that I'm in. Okay, so can you see my screen okay?
Yep.
Move things over. To set your tab definitions, you come here to this little arrow where it says tab definitions, and I turn it on, and it brings it up, and it says here are your tab sequences currently. Here's what's available to you. So maybe because I'm in Oregon and I only do work in Oregon, I don't have Washington customers or Idaho. The tax schedule may be something I don't even want it to go to. So I can remove a particular tab. And then if I want to add an actual tab, then I would just come over here and I would say, well, I also want to see not just the terms code, but I want to see the description of that terms code, because 05 doesn't mean anything to me until I don't know what 05 terms code is. So I might actually highlight that, and then I can say, go ahead and insert that tab. And then I say, well, I want it to actually tab in sequence in a certain way. So you can do things like that. And remove
now, do these changes, if you make tab stop changes, do those carry over in an upgrade?
Yes, they do. In an upgrade, what happens is we have to rebuild the customizer functionality. And so often then, because it's a custom office thing, it will rebuild. Sometimes we do find that certain ones don't rebuild, and we have to rebuild them by hand.
Okay.
Okay, so we have invoice date. I want to go to invoice amount, freight amount. My net invoice amount is not my next tab that I want, so I'm going to move that down. And so you just kind of go about doing things like that. And then my terms code, prepaid applied to invoice doesn't mean a whole lot to me. We're going to move that down. Terms code, invoice date, etc., discount amount. And all that looks good to me. So then I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And I could have previewed it, but I'm not. I'm just going to say save. And then I hit the little exit button down here. And we get out, and then I'm going to say no because I created an invoice. It always wants you to get out of the place you were and go back in for it to take effect. So now if I choose a vendor and I want to put my invoice in, now you can see I've changed from invoice amount to jump to terms code rather than it going all the way down and then up back over, and then you can just go through. So that's one thing that we can do with tabbing sequences. Also comes into play in entering new vendors, entering new customers, etc. Any questions on tab definitions?
Nope.
Okay. The other thing is go back into invoice data entry, and I don't think I have it turned on. Let's see. Yeah. I don't. Let's see if it's here. Okay. All right. So now to transition into making fields that are specific for a particular company and being able to track that information, we can go ahead and create what's called user-defined fields and also tables. So in this functionality, one thing that I like on the vendor level is under the 1099 information, I have no idea to know if I sent this particular vendor a W-9. So when it comes to crunch time in October and you're starting to look at, do I have everything I need to start to process 1099s in January? And it's like, I don't know. I don't even know if I sent this guy a W-9. I like to create a W-9 sent field. So the first thing to create a user-defined field is you come down into your custom office main, select user-defined field and table maintenance. When you create user-defined fields and tables, aside from needing to have security access to do so, you also need to make sure that nobody is in the particular module that you are trying to add a field to, because it updates the registries, and if anybody's in there, it says, oh, I can't update this registry because there's people in using these particular tables, so you'll have to do this later. So I've closed my vendor screen, and I know that nobody's in there, and we know that we can double check our master console to see that we're the only ones in, and we're only in the user-defined field table maintenance. So now if I want to create a new field, the first trick is I need to know where I want that information. So I know that for my vendor W-9 field, I want that information to show up in the accounts payable vendor master file. So I'm going to look for AP vendor. Master. I'm going to put my UDF in here. Notice when I selected a particular screen, it has activated a couple of functionalities here to my right. Edit fields, advanced field settings, and user-defined scripts. So we're going to come into edit fields. And it brings up a window for you to create a new UDF. So I'm going to say add with my little add button, and I'm going to create a UDF. The trick to creating your UDFs is you cannot have blank spaces. It has to have something. So if you don't want it to say W-9 like that, you might want it to say W-9 like that, or you might want it to say W-9 like that.
Okay.
And then so I'm going to make it W-9 sent. And the very first time that you create a UDF in a master record, you always want to choose manual entry, because that's the point where the information is coming into the system, and you have to manually enter it. So I'm going to say OK. And it's going to ask me some information. Do you want this to be a multi-line, a drop box that goes back to a list box that is maintained within the UDF itself, a checkbox? Anywhere in MAS where you see a checkbox that is checked, check means yes, unchecked means no. If I want to create a date field, I want to be able to populate the date, so I leave it as a multi-line up here, but in the data type, I select date. It automatically changes the fields gray that it doesn't require any more additional information from me, and I just go ahead and say OK. Now I've created a new field, and I'm saying OK here, and this is where it's going to update. If anybody was in the accounts payable records or even purchase order, because purchase order accesses AP, you would get an error. So I'm going to say OK, and it's going to update the registries. And the UDFs will be available in your lookup windows that we just saw for customizing. They will also be available in report writing screens that might, like in your vendor screen, your vendor reports that you might run, say, okay, give me all my vendors and give me vendors that have this W9 box here. So, so now I have created that UDF, and now if I want to actually place it on the screen, I choose the screen I want it on, and I want all my 1099 information in the same place. So I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say Customizer. Again, I'm going to create it just for me and just for ABC. And now I get to place my UDF. To place a UDF that you have created, you select this little Add UDF in the menu options. I left-click, and I take my mouse and I position it where I want my little W9 at. So I'm going to put it right down here, and I'm just going to say, I click and hold and drag it. And notice that it's creating, it tells me it's 13 characters long with a row setting height of 1. And then once I let go, it says, well, which UDF do you want? And I tell it, I want this one, and I select it, and it pops it in there. Now I save it, and I exit, and I exit again. Now if we go to our vendor maintenance screen, I have my W9 sent field, and I can say, all my test data is old, what date it is that I sent my W9. Now I noticed that the little text box didn't come in here with me, so I might actually want to come back out to know what that is. I'm going to select the screen I've just customized. And I'm going to insert a text box, so add text. And I might put it right up above because we don't have a whole lot of real estate here. W9 sent. Say OK. Save. And exit. Exit. And now we have a little box. And I can even move that up or wherever I want it. So that's a real simple UDF. Any questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, great. So let me share with you a few more UDFs that you can create that are kind of fun. In the accounts receivable area, I have created a couple of UDFs over here. The first one that I've created is on the additional tab. I wanted to know how people found us, so I created a source name or whatever, and I've actually created a table that I can populate with how did people find us. Did they Google us? Did they find us on Google+? Did they see our ad in the Oregonian? Did they see something on Yahoo? Maybe I've got a postcard or something that I've done a mailing and I want to track that. So in creating the table, you can create a table, and down in the custom office area, I have chosen to maintain my table data right here. So my AR market source is right here. If I've done a mailing lately that I want to track, and maybe I want to call it the 2015, let's call it the Tribune. There we go. Or maybe we want to call it the 2015 April Tribune. And we're not going to have a whole lot of space here. And maybe I just want to call it that. And then I accept to save it. Now I come back over here, and there's my Tribune. And now I can say that's how they found me. Now if I want to report on this information, let me show you one other row. Let me go back into accounts receivable. So there's fields. There's fields that are tied to tables. And now there are also entire tabs that we can create. And I've created a tab called Collections. And what I have here is a whole UDF that is allowing me 250 characters. And I created another little UDF that I wanted to know who called on it. So I called on this particular account. And the last time I called to collect any money was on May 14, 2010. And then just pretend it's 2010. And so then the next time you come in here, and maybe it's, you know, somebody else has made that phone call, and so spoke with Susie, check was returned, bad address, or something like that. We just know, resending check. And maybe instead of Wendy, now the last agent that called, you can either put that on the back end here, or you can actually put information here that says who called. And then so the next time now we can pop open our calendar, because I've said this is a calendar, and I called on June 10th, and I accept. Okay, so now I have these different informations that I'm storing and maintaining all of this information. Any questions about any of that?
I wonder if you could run through showing me how to create the table from the beginning, and how do you link that table to the field? Okay, so I'm going to create a user-defined field table and table maintenance. So this is under Custom Office Main. I come in here. Oops, it's already open. Sorry. Okay, so now to create a table, it doesn't want to know the screen. It wants to know the module. So first we have to think, which module am I maintaining this information in? So maybe in this particular case, I'm going to maintain some information in the accounts receivable module. I highlight it, and then right here to the right says add a user-defined table. It's smart enough to know that. And now I'm going to name my table. Let's see, what do we want to name our table? How about district manager? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to create a district manager table. Now, here's some important things to note. When you create a user-defined table and it says your key length is 10, that's a default. But maybe I have a district manager whose name, if I include his first initial or her first initial and their last name, I know that we're going to get right at about 15 characters. Okay. So I need to make this a 15-character table. And so keep this information in mind
And then often I will even take a little screenshot of this guy because we're going to need that when we create the UDF. So I'm going to say, okay. All right. So now it opens up. It's smart. It just automatically opens this up, and it's like, okay, well, now you need to create a field for this information. So just like creating a UDF, again, we're going to add a UDF, and in this case, I'm going to call it the district manager. And I'm going to make it a multi-line. And at first you have to kind of create this whole thing. And then remembering over here, I created the length of it to be 15. So I have to come in here and say this is 15. And that is a crucial step, so don't forget that.
Okay.
So now I've created it, and now I have to save it, and I will have to update it. Okay. Now I come back into my UDT, and I have to link everybody together. Let's open this up. Yeah. So now it knows that that one UDF that I created and the code are all linked together. So let me again show you where I was. So I'm highlighting the table that I created, and there's this little I in a little triangle type thing. Maintain the data. So now I'm going to go ahead and maintain the data. And I'm going to say, okay, so I have one of my district managers is Anna Johnson. And another one of my district managers is Bob Smith. Original here. And I can change it here. I can make it Bob Smith like that. Okay. So now once I've added a couple, I'm going to accept and save it. So now I don't need you no more. We want to maintain this information at the customer level. So I'm going to come out to my customer. And we have to look for real estate. This is always the tricky part. I see some place right there that I can put this. So I've right-clicked, chose Customizer here. And I'm going to add the UDF that's linked to the table. So add it. And you know what, I got more room right over here. And I am looking for my collection agent district. Where's my district manager? Where'd she go? Did I create it under AR? I'm pretty sure I created it under AR.
You did.
Yeah, should be right in here. I call it District Manager. UDF District Manager. Should be there. All right, let's get out and go see where I put it. AR District Manager. Okay, maybe I need to close this. Come back into it. Accounts receivable. think I freaked it out. There we go. Okay. Look at my UDF. Functions. Let's see if I created it correctly. All right. Oh, wow, it's not even there. My table disappeared. There's the table. District manager. Okay, let's edit it. It's not validating. Well, it's supposed to validate back to that. Let's go back up here. Edit. 15. Oh, I know what I did. District manager code. Let's see. Yep, it needed to be named district manager code.
Has it be named exactly the same?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
So let's get rid of that. Let's add it. District underscore MGR underscore code. Ah, it's cutting off. And 15. Save it. The theory is to create the table, create the UDF, save them, assign the UDF to the table.
Okay.
Yeah, did away with it. Johnson, Bob Smith. Okay. Now we want to custom maintenance. Oh, actually, I'm going to go back to customizer. And go in and maintain it. Come here. We need to assign it and make sure it's validating to the table. It's not seeing my table for some reason. Let me show you what the other one did
Okay.
that I created just like moments ago. There we go. So when you create the, and it didn't need to be named exactly the same. See how it's 12 and 12?
Mm-hmm.
If I go into the UDF that I created and I edit it, you can see that, well, let's see, the table. Yeah, this isn't even linked back. It was linked back. Should be linked back to the table that I created.
Huh.
Wow. Okay, well, let's go, whoops, and at least show you how it goes in. So let's come here. Customizer, again, we're going to just go to our screen and choose it, if I can get it. Hello? You're still thinking. That might be a little big. There we go. Okay. Source code, yeah, that one's not coming in for me for some reason. I must have missed a step somewhere, but
No
you would
problem.
just grab whatever you want and then pop it in there. So
Okay.
let's get out. Okay, so once you have different information that you're reported on, such as the W-9 vendor is a good one, you get to the end of the year, you want to see who have you got W-9s for and who have you not, right? So
Right.
I would go, and if you're familiar with the Explorer query,
I am.
and create a vendor payments view, and then I would create a special report that allows me to say, okay, I want to filter that I only want, payments sent between a certain time, etc. But I can pull in that UDF by going to the vendor where that is stored at, and there's my W-9.
Okay.
So now I can see the dates over here of when I sent a W-9, but I would create a whole report that says, give me my payments for my vendors where I've sent the W-9, but that the W-9 box is still set to none. And that way you know, oh, I am missing 1099 information. So you would come down and you would say, you would also want to see this guy. And I don't have any 1099 information in here, but if you did, you'd see it, or if you said no, or set to none, you would be able to filter it and see, okay, who.
Can you hold on just a second, Wendy? Hold on 1 second.
Sure. Okay, so reports. Daily lookup.
Sorry about that. We have someone's last day today, and we have pizzas for lunch, and they just got here, so I needed to help them really quick.
Oh, okay. So now also on your standard reports, you'll also see this W-9 that we made. So I can look at like a vendor list.
Okay.
And now you see this this UDF that I created is available. So I might say, okay, give me all of my W-9s that might have a date range between a certain period of time, type of a thing. Give me all of my, let's see, vendor name, and I want my 1099 vendors only type of a thing. So you can run reports off of that. The other thing is on the customer side, we might want to run a report to see, hey, who heard about us from that article or advertisement that we put in at Google or the Tribune. So again, you can come in, look at a customer list, or you can also do this in Business Insights Explorer by adding that field. And again, you will see it down here. So I can see I want to look at my source code name equals to, and then type in Google, and then run a report on that. So those are the neat things about UDS, is that they're reportable in the information in the tables that you have. Then also, you may already know some of these things as well, but one of the things that you can do, for instance, on reports that you run all the time, and one of them that I like to point out is the stock status report. So if you have several warehouses that you're running a stock status report on, and you're doing it all the time,
right,
but instead of coming in here and saying, okay, well, my warehouse code for this one is equal to in east, and you set all of the things here that you want, you can save this guy and call it east. And then I might go. You use this one?
Yeah, we do. We do save some reports. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some GL reports specifically. Yeah.
Yep. And so it's just a really handy thing to do, because now instead of me this always coming up and having to make those changes, I can go right to the settings that I want and I use over and over again and not have to recreate it over and over again. Trial balances are really also a nice one if you're only wanting to look at certain ranges of account numbers. Stock status, inventory valuation, inventory trial balance, aging reports that maybe you have divisions, and so you want to use an aging report, either AP or AR side, and you want to do it by a division that you might use. So those are some different ways that you can just streamline your practices that you do over and over again all the time, every day. So we've covered customizing the tab functionalities, adding UDS.
Can I ask about something specifically?
Yeah.
What about, we have sometimes, we used to have in place the specific groups who could not see certain fields. We could hide them.
Mm-hmm.
How would we, it was like in customer maintenance or if item inquiry, for example, the standard cost field, or some of the cost fields that show up on the item inquiry, we have these, we have like 002, 004, we have these different customization groups. And then certain users were assigned to certain ones. Where do we go to hide those fields? How do we do that?
Well, the first thing you'll want to do is come into Custom Office, and so you said Inventory Inquiry?
Yeah, item inquiry, yeah.
Okay, so if I'm going to modify my inquiry screen, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to bring something up. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to open up the customizer. I'm going to create a customization panel, and so you can create a user group and assign it to a particular company. And in this case, because I don't have user groups created, it's just going to go to ISM. But if I had created a user group here, so
okay, that all you have to do is just type in the numbers here to create a group?
Yeah, so if I go backwards, let's go back to my user maintenance. I only have one user in here, so and if I type a user group here and I call it maybe buyer, you don't have very much room. Let's see.
I think we just have 002 and 004 is what we have.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if I create it here and I assign that to me and I say okay, and now I come back to Customizer. I know you assign that to the person and the screen. I might have to look and see how to definitely make that customize your screen. And maybe it's because I don't have a customization screen just yet too, but if you customize your screen and then you assign the group to it, I didn't do anything. So, but that's where you maintain that and you assign
okay,
that.
and then, but how do you actually hide them? What do you in the customizer?
You have to create the custom screen. So, you know, because I was in here, and so I go Customizer. I'm going to create a panel for myself. And now maybe there's things I don't want them to see, like retail price. So I right-click, and I bring it up, and I say hide.
Oh, that's simple. Oh, my gosh.
and then I would save it, And then the other thing that you can do, this is all the things that you create. You tab stop, you disable a field here, you hide it from somebody.
What does disabling the field do?
What was that?
What does disabling the field do?
It leaves it there, but you can't get in it.
Grays it out. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Grays it out, and then, or you can lock it for some people that they can't get in. This is for if it's a field that you normally hand enter data in, but there's certain people you don't want them to hand enter data in. You can lock them out of it.
Okay.
You can also set different formatting functionalities here.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And
that
opens up a whole new world for me.
Yeah.
I think I've got some messing around to do.
So after all of that, and I would have saved that. Then when you go back into it, under my login that I have assigned that to, and I assigned that particular customization to that user, then it knows that, okay, you're signed in, so I'm assigning these customizations to you, and then go there. I would recommend, though, if at all possible, that you can use role maintenance to either keep people out of stuff or grant them access to it or not access to it. Default to role maintenance.
Well, we do. I always go there first, but there have been some, over the course of some years of upgrades, we did have those custom groups in place at one time, and it got lost or they didn't get recreated or something in some upgrades. So now users can see cost, and the problem with role maintenance is that you can't, if I take away the ability to see the cost, then they can't see historical transactions. So it's really weird. Like, they can't go into item inquiry and go to the history tab and look up like invoices in history from the history tab, but they can go to the next tab, the transactions tab, and look them all up right there. It's just, so there's certain functionalities in role maintenance that just don't quite do what I need to do in order to hide certain things. So that's what I needed to get back to. Because now, do those things carry over now in upgrades or no?
Custom Office does carry over. One of the things that we see sometimes does not carry over is your lookups, those things where we said, oh, I want to see that field versus that field, and I want it to default to this and not to that.
Right.
Some of those will still have to be rebuilt, but it's a hit and miss. But I have seen that every now and then they don't come through. And I think it might be more of when they were created. So how old, were they in 4.2 when they created that lookup, and we've been upgrading now. All of a sudden we're upgrading them to 5.2. So there's different things, and I think it has to do with the tables. Okay.
And so since we're getting ready to do, I'm in the testing phase of our Sage 100 upgrade, I'm just going to make some notes of the things that I want to hide, because I'd rather do it after we go live with the upgrade and then go in and do these customizations versus doing them in my current 4.4 version and hoping that we get over it. Right? Does that sound like the right way of thinking? Just wait to do them?
Especially in inventory. Yeah, especially in inventory.
Okay, that's what I was. Well, I can at least mess around with it and play with it as I'm testing Sage 100, and then just have a plan for after we go live to go in there and implement it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So I think that is pretty much Custom Office in a nutshell. While there is scripting and such, we usually
that's way too advanced for me, Wendy.
Yeah, and we don't cover it in Custom Office. Often we have our programmers will build the scripts and then provide them to us as an install rather than us trying to build it, because it's just a lot easier for them to package it. So
Definitely.
And then we know they're there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for this. I smell the pizza, so I'm going upstairs to get some pizza.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, Amber.
Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you, Amber.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
And Wendy, thank you for the great presentation and all the helpful information.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.